Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has landed on PC, which is leading the question needing to be asked, did the devs lie in the wake of the marketing and the debates about Ratchet and Clank, the power of the PS5, the power of the Xbox Series X, the SSDs, and all these other things that we heard about? There is many people claiming that they lied, that this game can run not on an SSD, it can run on an HDD. We've got Digital Foundry videos. There's been a lot of debating and arguing on the internet about this game in particular. Now, I've watched the Digital Foundry video. I've played the game on my PC, on my own gaming rig. I watched Oh No, It's Alex's video. He broke down the game running on different setups, including the Steam Deck. And I fundamentally think there are two debates going on here. There is a lot of bad faith argumentation and dishonesty going on, which really isn't surprising, but it needs to be engaged with. It needs to be corrected. So we're going to look at what the devs actually said in the initial marketing for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Then we're going to look at the footage. We're going to analyze it. We're going to draw a pretty clear conclusion based on what everybody is saying and what everybody is experiencing. Now, I put all of the good information right here at the beginning, so you don't have to go looking for it. It's a longer video because it is a live stream. Once I'm kind of done with the opening monologue, I discuss it with the live audience. So if you like this kind of content, make sure you hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss out on my videos. So, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is finally on PC, and the debate is certainly not calming down about it. In the face of blatant evidence, many are still claiming that the devs lied about the game and the PS5 SSD, which I find bad faith takes and smear merchants and liars to be tiring, but they need to be corrected because many of these people have platforms and they get lots of traction on Twitter. So first, we're going to look at what Insomniac actually said because it has been grossly misrepresented and misquoted time and time again. We will also learn about things like context and chronological ignorance. These are things that are incredibly important in the larger discussion. Second, we're going to look at the proof. We have footage from Digital Foundry. We have footage from the Steam Deck. Digital Foundry even simulated what the game would look like on a PS4. Third, we will ask the question, what's the verdict? We've got evidence, we've got facts, we have actual quotations. That's what we are going to be looking at. Not false summaries, not misleading framing. We're even going to look at what some of the Insomniac employees are saying on Twitter. Two of them weighed in on this, and their input is incredibly valuable in the larger discussion. So first, what did they say? Now, before I get to what Insomniac said, I think it's important to point out there have been two debates taking place, and essentially, folks are using one debate, which is a completely foolish one, and they're using that to smuggle in false conclusions about Insomniac's claims. Now, what do I mean? Well, the first debate is between console tribalists, not people of intelligence, but people of lower intelligence. They're just constantly wailing on each other on Twitter. There are plenty of Sony fans that said things about Ratchet and Clank that Insomniac never said, claiming things like the game wouldn't be possible without the PS5 SSD. These were fans that said that, like, oh yeah, this game would have never come to fruition. Now, there's technology in the game that wouldn't have happened without an SSD, but again, we have to look at the context of those statements. People were also saying that Ratchet and Clank would never look good on a PC. Some were even saying that, you know, if it runs on PC, it's going to run terribly, it's going to look really, really bad. That was a common thing that was being claimed by Sony fans. Now, some of this was in response to PC fans taking issue with claims about the PS5's SSD. In other words, the idea started floating around that the PS5 SSD was somehow magical, and folks familiar with SSD technology, they know that that just isn't true. So this debate, in my estimation, is a waste of time. You had people bad faith framing, you had people being misleading, overstating things, and just going back and forth, engaging with what is essentially just a bunch of dishonesty. And what happens, though, is the water gets muddy, and folks start concluding that Insomniac lied because because of this fan debate, a debate amongst console tribalists and, PC master race guys. This is why I said they smuggle in false summaries. Well, I defeated a bunch of fanboy takes, so that means Insomniac lied. That is sort of the way that the logic flows, even though that logic is incredibly broken. It's important to establish this first because I'm not really concerned about what overzealous Sony fans said. I don't care what they said, okay? I don't care what overzealous Xbox fans said when they talked about the power of the Xbox Series X. Anytime I've talked about the Series S or the broken promises that I feel I was given about the Series X, I go to Microsoft's marketing. I don't go to overzealous fanboys on Twitter. That disproving them doesn't do anything. And in the same vein, I don't care what overzealous Sony fans said about Ratchet and Clank or the PS5's SSD. I'm only concerned with what Insomniac said. That's the question. Did they lie? Now, there is a video titled Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart Insomniac Insights, and Marcus Smith, the creative director, spoke about the game. And when constructing an argument about someone and what they have said, it's incredibly important to establish context. If you are going to claim that somebody lied, you should have to make, I think, a pretty substantive and compelling argument going to their actual statements, not just ripping pieces of it out. That's not going to work in this scenario because you have to look at what was actually stated in the video. And right before he talks about the PS5 SSD, he says the following: "This is what we are trying to do, is build worlds that feel real and are bringing you in. You're exploring these brand new spaces, and this is something we never could have done on previous generations." Now, ignoring this context is willful. It's willful decision from the people that are claiming Insomniac lied, which is ironic. Welcome to hypocrisy. You are essentially lying in order to claim that somebody lied. This is willful dishonesty. This isn't an accident. They are smear merchants. This is what they do. They constantly obfuscate and misrepresent things. You shouldn't support them. You shouldn't follow them on Twitter. They're making money by being a dishonest person. I mean that. I really mean that. This is an intentional omission from the discussion because it destroys every argument that I have seen about this. This one sentence, this one part of the video, it just completely puts the entire matter to bed. As soon as he finishes that sentence about, this is stuff we couldn't do in the previous generations, he says the following: "Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a game that utilizes dimensions and dimensional rifts, and that would not have been possible without the solid-state drive of the PlayStation 5. So in the very next breath, he's expounding on this is what we couldn't do in previous generations. I can prove that that's what he's thinking about with very simple logic. His previous sentence is very generic. He says things like, they want to build worlds that feel real, and they want to let you explore these brand new spaces. That's stuff that they did on the PS4. He's clearly not saying, this is what we couldn't do that in previous generations. We couldn't let you explore, new spaces, and we couldn't make worlds that feel real. I mean, they did this with games like The Last of Us Part 2 and Horizon Zero Dawn. To deny that would be foolish. It's clear that those statements are setting the stage for him to talk about dimensions and dimensional rifts. So logically, it's one thought. We want to create these realistic new spaces for you to explore. We couldn't do this on previous generations. Here's an example: rifts and dimensional technology. So within this context, the SSD makes sense to mention. The more he talks, the more clear it becomes he was thinking about the PS5 versus the PS4. And this is important for all the PC Master Race dum-dums out there that think that this marketing was dishonest and that they were trying to claim the PS5 SSD was magical. Here's the following quote: "It allows us, the SSD allows us to build worlds and project players from one place to another in near instantaneous speeds. It is an unbelievable game changer in terms of what we can do now with gameplay, where you're in one world and in the next moment you're another. And we're loading up levels that happen so quickly and in the action that you don't even imagine this is something we couldn't do before, because it feels so natural. Long gone are loading screens." Again, he's saying this is something we couldn't do before. He's speaking as a PlayStation developer, okay? We couldn't do this before. Development for the PS4, we couldn't do this. And then he says long gone are loading screens. This was a common mantra from both companies, okay? Go watch the Project Scarlet marketing. They mention it numerous times that loading screens are a thing of the past. Now, I guess that means Xbox lied because Starfield has loading screens. No, that wouldn't be true. That's a bad faith take. But by the logic being applied to Insomniac, then yeah, Xbox lied. So if you're going to hold them to that standard, then fair is fair. I'm not claiming Xbox lied. I know that when you say no more loading screens, or with the power of these SSDs, long gone are loading screens, there's still going to be games that have loading screens. Like, that's a reasonable expectation. But that's essentially what he's getting at. He's driving that mantra of no more loading screens. This is going to be instantaneous. That's why he mentioned the SSD. It's a very logical explanation. It is crystal clear. Insomniac's not saying the SSD is special. They're saying we couldn't do this dimensional tech without the SSD. It's incredibly important to remember this when we look at all of the footage coming out, because the footage proves this in spades. And the funny thing is, there's a third debate. And it's about as silly as the first one. PC gamers were thinking that PS5 marketing had PC tech in mind. Again, context is so painfully clear that he's speaking about the PS5 versus the previous PlayStations. It's embarrassing that I need to clarify this so much. This is so pedestrian. This is so first grade reading level. You should be insulted that I have to explain this to you. It should alert you to the fact that this is a really dumb argument, okay? As I said, fans ran with this. They overstated it, but attempting to bend what overzealous fans have said and bend that backwards to claim that Insomniac lied is just dishonest and hypocritical. Ironically, you're fighting dishonesty with dishonesty. Sony fans who ran with big overstated claims were just being dishonest. Using that to smuggle in claims against Insomniac is just hypocritical at best. So what about the proof? One of the reasons I said very little about this leading up to the launch, when we saw that Ratchet and Clank was going to come to PC, I knew Digital Foundry would slice it up and we would see the truth. We would get the info, all right? So first, there's Digital Foundry footage of the game running on an HDD, okay? This is what it looks like when you get to the Rift sections. Like, this screenshot is quite literally what it looks like a lot of the time. It just freezes. It just sits there and hangs. There are times where he's just spinning in place, okay? He's not going anywhere. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. This is literally what the game is not supposed to do. It's supposed to do the opposite, okay? That is an extreme. Now, they admitted that, okay? This section where it was freezing, they admitted that this was sort of the worst case scenario. This was the PS4 hard drive. So there were people running with a narrative about, oh, it could run on the PS3. I'm going to deal with that guy in a moment because his take and his video look brain dead stupid right now, okay? But they tested it with a PS4 hard drive, okay? So they admitted that that was kind of extreme. So they ran it on a good system with a 7200 RPM hard drive, and according to John Linneman, quote, loading screens lasted significantly longer. Anytime there was any sort of traversal through portals and such, the pauses that would occur were significantly longer than with an SSD. Now, there's two things worthy of note here. First, it blatantly proves Insomniac's claims to be true, that the minute you run this game on a hard drive, the dimensional shifting technology doesn't work properly. You're just freezing in the air. You're sitting there. If you go back to what he said, if you go back to what the man actually said, the idea of near instantaneous switching from one dimension to another, that's only working on the SSD, and this video proves it. But the second thing that I think is a little subtle, it proves not just Insomniac was right that you need the PS5's SSD, but that the PS5's SSD is doing this better. Most of the videos I've seen of this thing running on SSDs, even on NVMEs, there are slight pauses and hitches. There are side-by-sides where the PS5 never slows down. It goes through the dimensional situations perfectly fine, and then the PCs are lagging behind. Now, I've seen videos, oh no, it's Alex's video, when he ran it on an SSD, I didn't see a single pause or a hitch. So this is going to be one of those PC gaming experiences where your experiences may vary, all right? The point is that this game was built from the ground up for the PS5, so you're going to see those differences even when playing it on a PC with a great port from Nixxes. You're going to have those slightly slower moments and hitches during those dimensional moments. So even SSDs and high-end PCs are doing things slower in the dimension sections. Not across the board, but some systems are. Digital Foundry's own footage shows the PS5 going through those sections with 0 pauses. Even running on a 3.5 gigabyte per second NVMe, there were pauses and stutters. So in other words, the dimensional tech runs not just best, but as it was intended on the PS5 SSD. These conclusions are inescapable. This is just basic logic. The entire point of the tech, the entire point of Insomniac's claims was world hopping at, quote, near instantaneous speeds. So again, no matter how you look at this, Insomniac's claims are proven true by the footage. But what about the second stage of this debate? I have people boasting about the fact that I'm running it on a Steam Deck off of an SD card and it runs totally fine. These people are not being honest. There are multiple clips that can be seen. Anytime this thing is running on an SD card on the Steam Deck, it pauses, it snags, it lags in the dimension sections. It's not how those sections are supposed to be played. Now, you could say, oh, I tolerate it. That's anecdotal and subjective. It's not that big of a deal. That's superfluous to the discussion. The discussion is, did Insomniac lie? In Oh No, It's Alex's video, when he ran it on the Steam Deck on an SD card, it was worse than a 5400 RPM hard drive. The lag, the stutter, he just sat there for an exceptional amount of time before continuing through the rift. So again, this proves the claims of Insomniac true. No matter how you shake this, if you run this on a hard drive, if you run this on an SD card on the Steam Deck, you're simply proving the original claims of Insomniac true. To claim otherwise is just to lie. So, what's the verdict? Now, first, before we look at some of the response from Insomniac themselves, I have to say something about the fan debate, okay? That debate is a waste of time because it's based on false claims on both sides. If you want to parade around clips of this game running in a subpar way, not in the way that it was originally intended, and you think that's some sort of a victory or a dunk on PlayStation, I think you need to find a new hobby, and I think you need to reconsider what you're doing. You're actually making the PlayStation 5 look pretty good, which is ironic considering what you're attempting to do. Now, with that out of the way, I think that debate's pointless. I have a beautiful, tasty irony for all of the anti-Sony fans. I'll get to that beautiful irony in a moment. First, James Stevenson, the director and community and marketing of community and marketing at Insomniac Games, he had the following to say. So he retweets John Linneman showing off the game on a PS4 hard drive, and that footage is hilariously bad. Keep in mind, there were people claiming that this game could run on a PS4 and a PS3 because some moron who worked on a Lego game thinks that it was possible. We're going to get to him in a moment. He's getting haymakers, okay, because what he said is ridiculous. Right here, James Stevenson says, as we said. He's basically saying, we told you. I told you so. This game will not run on the previous generation, okay? The footage of Digital Foundry's experiment with the PS4 hard drive is painfully obvious to all of the absolute morons who claim this in the past. This confirms that from Insomniac's standpoint, it was always about the previous generation. They were never thinking about PC. They don't make games for PC. They are a PlayStation developer. Then, Grant Parker, a game designer for Insomniac, he said the following. So he retweets the infamous PS4 hard drive tweet, and he says the following. Really good example of how powerful the PS5 is. On PS5, less than 1.5 seconds. Unsupported PlayStation 4 hard drive with min spec greater than 60 seconds. Bringing down stream time that rough on PS4 would take enormous dev time. We'd never have been able to iterate and commit to crafting multiple sequences like this across the game. This is precisely why the false narrative that was circulated by anti-Sony fans was so frustrating. In August of 2021, we had headlines like, quote, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart could run on a PS3, claims Lego developer. That was spread. Sony haters gobbled it up. I remembered that being put into my chat. I was just trying to play Ratchet and Clank and have a good time. I had people coming in and saying, this game could run on a PS3. Some dev said so, all right? His name is John Burton. John Burton decided to make a YouTube video back then, and his claims look incredibly silly right now. He claimed that similar technology was used in a Lego game on the PlayStation 3. Yes, a Lego game on the PlayStation 3 was doing simultaneous loading of areas, and he thought that this game that you're looking at here could do the same thing on the PS3. Yes, he said this. He meant it. A Lego game, all right? And here's a quote. For the record, I think the game is great, and Insomniac are an amazing development team. The SSD is fully used, enabling an amazing-looking game with unbelievable graphics. Yes, since the SSD is how you get great graphics, sure. The one thing I take exception to is the marketing saying the gameplay is only possible on the PS5 with an SSD. That clearly isn't true. This video explains why. Well, we look forward to a retraction from you because your claims have been falsified, all right? We can clearly see that no, when the game runs on non-SSD drives, when it runs on the PlayStation 4, when the PlayStation 4's non-SSD drive, it runs terribly. And one of the developers said it would have taken an enormous amount of dev time to bring it down to those speeds, and they likely wouldn't have been able to do the technology. The whole point of the statement, the whole point of the dimensional tech, is that seamlessly jumping from one dimension to another needs to be instantaneous. It's not instantaneous on the PlayStation 4 hard drive. It's not instantaneous on hard drives in PCs. Your claims have been falsified. I doubt we get a retraction. This is why folks claiming that the goalposts have shifted are just doing revisionist history. Many anti-Sony fans circulated that article, that video, and those claims, constantly saying, oh, this game could have run on a PS3, Insomniac lied to you. Now you want to act like that's not what the narrative was because you look stupid if you claimed that back then. The claims have been falsified. They've been proven to be untrue. Now that those claims have been disproven by the footage, by the developers themselves, I guess it's time to move on to something else, right? Maybe go watch the Series S video that got set to private if you're interested in lies and bad marketing. I'm sure someone's going to say something like, well, they could have gotten it to work. It would have just had loading. No, the PS4 hard drive video proves this false, and the dev commentary slams it home. They would have had to drastically change the game, their vision, the technology, and they would have had to spend more dev time. This is excellent insight into why the Series S continues to crop up as a problem, because you're having to build for a weaker system. And this is great insight into why that reality is going to continue to get worse. But that's another video, that's another discussion. It's also worth noting that Digital Foundry confirmed running the game on a hard drive with anything above very low settings can actually crash the game. Now, others are running the game on a standard hard drive, and they're running it on higher settings, and it's not crashing. But even though this is case by case, it shows that running the game on a standard hard drive will cause more than just stutters during the dimensional events. It can actually cause the game to crash. It can actually mean you better not set this thing above high settings, like their original recommended specs chart that came out when they had the 720 on the hard drive. They were kind of trying to tell you, listen, you crank the settings above this, it might not run very well, might not run at all. Game Riot ran the game on a 4090 that has 24 gig of VRAM and 64 gig of system RAM, and they still had snags because it was running on an HDD, which is one of the last things that needs to be stated. The PS5 is outperforming top-level PCs in the dimensional sections. They're not outperforming. Top-level PCs are going to be able to do way more than the PS5 with resolution and the ray tracing. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is in the dimensional sections, the PS5 is outperforming high-level PCs, even PCs running NVMEs and SSDs. Now, obviously, this isn't the most fair comparison because the game was designed for the PS5 architecture from the ground up. So I'm not saying saying that, oh, you couldn't make a game like Ratchet and Clank for PC. You could. You just had to build it for PC from the ground up. It's not necessarily fair because from the very beginning, this game was purely built for the PS5 architecture. But secondly, and most importantly, devs are going to notice that they can make a game like this, and if it's built for the PS5 architecture from the ground up, you can do stuff like this. And that's a beautiful, beautiful irony in this silly anti-fan debate. I call them anti-fans because you're not really a fan of Xbox. You're a Sony hater. You're an anti-Sony fan. I know plenty of Xbox fans who are not anti-Sony fans, okay? But this is a beautiful irony for all of the anti-Sony fans. The more people rage and the more people fight over this, the more attention it gets. And devs know infinitely more than trolls on Twitter. All of you anti-Sony fans are inadvertently drawing attention to just how great a game can be when it's built for the PS5. You're promoting the very thing that you hate. Do you honestly think that AAA devs and publishers are going to fall for your silly antics on Twitter? No. They see Digital Foundry clips of a game running smoother on a PS5 than top-level PCs. That's marketing that you can't pay for. So, did Insomniac lie? No, they didn't. But those who think so are doing a bang-up job of promoting Insomniac's game, their stellar work, and the power of the PS5. Congratulations, you just played yourself. Now try going and actually playing some games. So let me give you my thoughts and my conclusion. The never-ending console tribalism continues to make conversations about games a challenge. Even John Linneman was interacting with attacks on Twitter. Folks were accusing him and Digital Foundry of faking things, or, well, you're only making videos for petty console warring. Even basic breakdowns of games and their performance turns into childish mudslinging. But the thing that will continue to stand out against the thing that I will continue to stand against is falsehood and lies. If you're out here saying things that aren't true, if you're making claims that aren't true, you're going to get taken down by anybody who is beholden to truth and not a company. Number 2, fans on both sides have misrepresented the situation. We had anti-Sony fans claiming that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart could have run on a PS3. That's been blatantly proven not true. We even had pro-Sony fans overstating the power of the PS5 and the SSD. It's so much simpler and easier to just deal in facts and truth. It takes less energy. It leaves your integrity intact. So, here's my conclusion. Accusing a developer of lying is pretty serious. I've seen zero good faith, facts-based argumentation to prove that Insomniac lied. Snippets from a video are ripped from their context, misrepresented, or just flat-out misquoted. If the only way to prove your claims is to lie and twist someone's words, it says more about you as a person than the people that you're attacking. And that's the real verdict. Did Insomniac lie? No. But a lot of you certainly did. And that's the show open. That's the show open. Insomniac didn't lie, but a lot of you did. And we got the receipts, we got the tweets, we got your terrible videos, and I guess maybe try and delete them all. And I gotta thank somebody for a big, huge, gifted member bomb. I got a couple of things going on during the show open. Thank you so much, Scott Baker, for a gifted member, and then Ghost in the Garage Gaming starting things off. We're already at 21 members on the day. 20 gifted members from Ghost in the Garage Gaming. C. Lou with 3 months, and J Pro with a 2 spot. NX Gamer did a better analysis than Digital Foundry. Oh, fine. I watch whoever, as long as they're just breaking down the facts. As long as that's what you're doing, that's all we need. My wife said it's getting kind of spicy. Well, listen, when you lie, I get out the spice rack, That's just the way that goes. Guys, don't forget to order some Reforge roast coffee. We don't talk about it as much as we used to. I'll probably mention it a little bit more than I used to. If you're a coffee drinker and you've never tried coffee with balanced acidity before, It's smooth. There's zero bitterness. It goes great with creamer. It's great black. It's great as an iced coffee. ReforgeRoast.com or use the coffee link below in the description. Joker Quinn with a gifted membership. DK Bager with a gifted membership, taking us to 23 members on the day. Mike on to Mike with 17 months says, chat Lono, what's good, y'all? Thank you so much for 17 months and a VIP. Mike on to Mike. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Mama. My lunch is in the fridge for later. Don't let me forget, chat. Don't let me starve. I've done that before. Lono needs a call-in line. It's easier to bait real-time talking. I don't do call-in lines. Nobody does that unless they're trolling most of the time. Game works great on my Asus ROG Ally via micro SD card. Check for yourselves. They exaggerated. That's all I'm saying. Oh no, it's Alex's video shows huge stutters and snags on the SD. His SD running on a Steam Deck ran worse than a 5400 RPM HDD. I saw snags of somebody else's video where if you run this thing on an SD card, there's huge snags. You're not proving anything by saying, oh, but the game runs. I can play it on a Steam Deck. I can play it on an Asus ROG Ally. That's not the debate. The original claims of Insomniac was purely instantaneous switching with the dimensional tech. You're not getting that on your SD card. You're not getting that on your HDD. That's the only point of discussion if we're talking about Insomniac. If you're talking about fanboys, that's not what we're talking about. They never said this game won't run. They were referring back to PS4. And we can clearly see if you try and run it on a PlayStation 4 hard drive, it runs like garbage. One of the guys from Insomniac literally said, we wouldn't have been able to do this tech. We would have had to slow everything down. 5 more gifted members coming in from CrossFit Nerd takes me up to 28 on the day. Next goal being 50. It's the go-ahead goal. What's good, Alex in the chat? Yeah, I watched Alex's video this morning. I skipped past like the opening. I wanted to see the performance, and he did the 5400, the 7200, and then he needed an SD card. And people are getting different results. That's the other thing you guys have to consider. John Linneman was like, if we took it above low settings on the HDD, it was crashing. So some people are running it on an HDD with higher settings, and it's running fine. You're still getting snags during the dimensional shifts. That's the whole point. That's all Insomniac was talking about. Derek says, Lono, I know I'm your brother and I'm a bit biased, but damn is it great when you take folks to the cleaners, give them the business, demoralize them, kick butt and take names, so to speak. Thank you, Derek. Who manufactures the PS5 SSD? I'm not actually sure. As I said, the more people draw attention to this, you are inadvertently making the PlayStation 5 look pretty good. It looks pretty good right now, doesn't it? Seriously, look at the side-by-side comparisons, and you can see... Listen, standing ovation to Nixxes. Standing ovation to Nixxes. What a snag they are. For Sony to own them, that's pivotal going forward, to have a company that is that good at porting, okay? However... I think the SD card and Steam Deck, the issue is more Proton than the actual storage. Right. The point is, it's kind of like, I don't know the term to use. I don't know the fallacy. It's a fallacy when the point is this and you're arguing another point. I can't remember which that one is. Listen, you saying, oh, I got it to run on an HDD. I got it to run on a Steam Deck. I got it to run on an Asus ROG Ally. Great. Fanboys said that wouldn't be possible. I never said that wouldn't be possible. Insomniac never said that wouldn't be possible. Insomniac specifically stated instantaneous loading between dimensions, dimensional tech, is only possible with the SSD. He says that just after talking about this is stuff we couldn't do in previous generations. He is specifically, this is so painfully obvious, he is specifically talking about the fact that going from the PS4 to this, look at what we can do now. No, it's not a non sequitur. A non sequitur is it does not follow. It might be the red herring fallacy. It has nothing to do with the discussion, right? You can't do this, but we got it to run. Oh, okay. It would be like saying this car can't hit this speed with that gasoline. And you're like, well, I put that gasoline in the car and the car runs. That's not the point. The point is not, can you get the car to run? The point is, you can't do this specific thing with that, oh, but I got it to run. So the frick what? The SSD of the PS5, that was the lie. They made it seem like the PS5 SSD was magical. It's not. That's projection. That's a false conclusion. Listen, you're projecting that onto the discussion. What's he supposed to say in that instance? He's comparing to past generations, right? Yeah, in previous generations, we couldn't do this. Why? Well, the SSD of the PS5. And you're projecting onto that. They're claiming it's magical. No, that's a bad faith framing. They never said it was magical. In the context of the statement, it makes perfectly good sense for him to be like, we couldn't do this in previous generations. Ratchet and Clank has dimensional technology in it, which was only made possible by the SSD of the PS5. And you PC Master Race guys get your panties all twisted up, and you're like, but it's not magical. He never said it was magical. He's comparing the old to the new. Well, what's the difference between the PS4 and the PS5, John? What's allowing you to do that? The SSD, you bonehead. That's what it is. Oh, they're making it seem magical. No, they didn't. He's clearly just talking about, this is what we can do now, baby. The PS5, whew, this is great. This is cool stuff. No more loading screens. Both companies were doing that because it's generally true. They updated Ghost of Tsushima, and all of a sudden, it took me by surprise one day. I fast traveled, and I was like, where's the loading screen? Like, that was a huge marketing mantra of both companies. Alex says, my issue was never with Insomniac, but with the fanboys and how they took that statement and blew it out of proportion. Right. I have no problem, right? I have no problem with roasting up fanboy takes. You do that all you want. You roast them up all you want. But people go from that, Alex didn't do this. People go from roasting up fanboys to being like, Insomniac lied. Whoa. No, that's a logical fallacy. If these guys are over here overstating the power of the PS5, roast them up like dinner. Go for it. I don't freaking care. They're just as dumb as the guys attacking Sony all the time. They're both their own breed of dumb, all right? The point that I've been trying to make from the very beginning is, please go back to what Insomniac said. I've got a video, I think it's got like 8,000 views on it now. It's one of our better uploads. I'm not really an uploader, I'm more of a live streamer. That upload did very well, because I was like, let's just go back and see what Insomniac said. Let's just go back. You want to know why? Alex is saying, well, I'm just taking the fanboys to task. Well, so am I, because back in 2021, I had to put up with people coming in and saying, this game could run on a PlayStation 3. This guy that worked on a Lego game said so. No. It couldn't run on a PlayStation 3. That's not true. Nope. Well, we did simultaneous loading of areas in a Lego game. A freaking Lego game? Really? Really? This game looks like a Pixar movie that I can play. And you think because you did it in a Lego game that you could run this on a PlayStation 3. Huh? But that video circulated all this hate. Oh, Ratchet and Clank, Insomniac lied to you. They could do this on a PS3. Really? Do you want to go look at the footage of it running on a PlayStation 4 hard drive? It looks like a disaster. And one of the developers weighed in. This guy right here. He says, listen, bringing down stream time with that rough on a PlayStation 4 would take enormous dev time. We'd never have been able to iterate and commit to crafting multiple sequences like this across the game. It would have murdered vision. It would have murdered the art. Now, hang on a second. Do I have any gifteds or members I have to thank? Hang on. No, I went to click on fan funding. Hang on. Aaron Claypool with a 12-month milestone. It's a VIP. Nice shirt. Are you saying that this drama is making Superman cry? I actually hadn't been able to find this shirt in a really long time. My wife found it. A $5 chip from Adam. Why is always something with PlayStation? None of the new technology of the Xbox has been used in first party in 3 years, and nobody talks about it. That's why I told people, is like, listen, you want to talk about lies in marketing? Go watch the Series S video that Microsoft set to private. Leave us alone while we play Ratchet and Clank, right? Leave us alone. Like, come on. Where's that energy for all the lies about the Series S? Eugene says, I just wish he would have talked about the data controller and I/O throughput, which was unmatched at the time, says Eugene. Right. That's another problem. Okay, Matt was a great guest last night, very insightful. I was kind of jealous. I used some of his tweets in my coverage. Hang on, what was I going to say? I/O, throughput controller, third party, nobody talks about it. Oh, at the time. Thank you. I'm back. Garrett Green, thanks for jumping back in as a membership. As a member. Why are you like the morning? Huh? What are you talking about, Brooklyn Breed? The chronological ignorance is also kind of frustrating, okay? At the time, what they showed and what they did with Ratchet and Clank, do we need to go back 2 years? Who's doing that? Who's doing that back then? Who? What games? And keep in mind, Ratchet and Clank launched in 2021, which means it was in development the years prior. So, 2017, 2018, around that time, who's developing games doing that? Who? Where? Where are they? Can you point me to them? Are there games doing dimensional swapping and rift swapping like that? Are there games doing instantaneous loading, like just back and forth like that? Who's doing it? Who? Now we're seeing it more, right? It's 2023. Now we're seeing it more. Nixxes did a great job with this port. It's practically simulating the exact same thing. Chronological ignorance is a great way to put it. Yeah, I tried to come up with a statement. It's like, it's not chronological snobbery. That's different. This is like chronological ignorance. It's like you're acting like where we are now is where we were back then. You freaking kidding me? What? Huh? There were virtually no games doing this back then. Portal? No. Not true. That's not how Portal operates. In Portal 2, everything is loaded and you can move around within that space instantaneously. Portal is impressive. Portal is not making you go instantaneously into a brand new area. It loads the area. You create portals and can change locations within that area. Titanfall 2? Titanfall 2 doesn't do this. How could it do that back then? You didn't even have SSDs in the consoles. What are you even saying? Now, Titanfall 2 is an optimized dream, all right? Respawn ought to be embarrassed with Titanfall 2 in their pocket. They ought to be embarrassed about Jedi Survivor, for Pete's sakes. What are y'all doing? Titanfall 2 ran incredibly well. It was one of the few 60 FPS games back then. One of the very, very few. But it didn't have instantaneous loading of whole new areas. That's not something that we did back then. We didn't have games like that. Splitgate, again, you're misunderstanding the technology. Splitgate, the map is loaded. You are simply switching locations within the preloaded map. You're not switching to an entirely new map. You're not understanding. Yeah, I think Medium has harnessed some of this kind of technology of simultaneous loading of assets so you can switch dimensions. That's true. Medium did it. But again, this is a newer thing we're starting to see. It's not something... You cannot go back in time and act like, well, in 2021, I cannot believe that I can't believe they were claiming this. What are you talking about? This was brand new. This was a new idea. This was a new concept. Both companies were stressing this. No more loading screens, right? No more elevator loading screens, right? You're just in the elevator waiting for it to load the next area. Stop with the SSD stuff. This time next year, it'll be one of the slowest on the market. You know we want to scroll up, right? Slowest on the market. Again, all Gen 5 on the market. Oh, you're asking why is he flaming everyone today? Because I'm tired of this. This debate is stupid. It's embarrassing. The medium does not work that way. Don't you switch dimensions in medium? You go to like that nightmare area. It's the same room. It's just all of a sudden, floop, it like flips to the nightmare version. I thought it was instantaneous. The medium is rendering both worlds at once. It's not loading. Oh, goodness gracious. That's pretty impressive. Medium is a Series X version of Ratchet and Clank, fully utilizing the velocity architecture. Right. Didn't Medium... What? I can't remember. I played that on the Xbox, I'm pretty sure. Was that a multiplat, or was that an exclusive? Or was it a timed exclusive? I honestly can't remember. I remember playing it, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought the puzzles were interesting. It was a very interesting take on... You go in the room, and you try to figure out how to get to the next area. You still have Frickmas, 4 bags of Frickmas left. Plug the coffee. Yeah, if you guys order coffee, let me know. Oh, here, let me turn the coffee alert on. It should pop up if you order coffee. Do I like Jim Ryan? I think he's doing a great job. If you look at all of the profits, if you look at the growth, if you look at the market saturation, keep going, dude. Like, I'm not trying to be his friend. He's a CEO, and all he's supposed to do is get results. He's not supposed to be likable. He's not supposed to be my buddy or my pal. He's supposed to get results. Same goes for Phil Spencer. Like, I've actually always liked Phil Spencer quite a bit. I think he's got great, stage presence. I always found that E3, the Xbox showcases were superior to PlayStation's. I didn't like PlayStation showcases back in the day. Isn't there one level in an older game that works like this, Dishonored 2 or something, where you can immediately swap back and forth between two maps? I can't remember. I'm not sure which game you're talking about. Dishonored 2 had stuff kind of like this, but again, wrong. It's not loading like Ratchet and Clank. It's also running at like 800p because it's rendering two worlds at once. Yeah, Paul over here is watching on Kick. He's saying that Medium's not the greatest example because it's using different technology. It's rendering both worlds, which means it's running at a much lower resolution. The fact this argument is mainly from people who either don't have a PS5 or PC, people who can't read, is wild. Right, and that's the thing. I tried to say this in the show open. Guys, could we get 200 likes, by the way? We're on our way to 600 viewers. We should have way more likes on the video. We're crushing it on the member goal. We're trying to hit 2,500 and hold going into August. I've got big incentives for you guys in August for 3,000, 3,500, and 4,000. We're going to try to get all the way back up to 4,000. Stone Spire has said if you guys get us to 2,900, he'll slam home the final 100. So if you guys go crazy today, he'll make good on his promise. I tried to include that in the show open, that there's two debates going on. There were Sony fans overstating the power of the PS5 and the SSD, right? And then there are anti-Sony fans that want to accuse Insomniac of lying, all right? They're out here going like this. I don't care. I don't care about that. But when I see claims that Insomniac lied, it's like, okay, let's see if we can substantiate this claim. I believe we have falsified that claim 10 times over. Nobody, and I mean nobody, has put together a good faith, intellectual, facts-based argument that Insomniac lied. It's always bad faith, unfair framing, projection. I've seen people just flat out misquote Insomniacs. Like, they never said what you just said. You keep throwing this word magical in. Oh, they said that the PlayStation 5 SSD was magical. No, they never said that. They said that the PlayStation 5 SSD was special. No, and they were not marketing this game or the PlayStation 5 against PC technology. That wouldn't even make sense. From a marketing perspective, it would make absolutely no sense to target PC power and PC technology. They're speaking to PlayStation owners. Hey, PlayStation owners, look at Ratchet and Clank. This is stuff we couldn't do previous generation. The PlayStation 5's SSD is how it's possible. You're lying. Their SSD isn't special. Nobody said that it was. We were having a conversation about Ratchet and Clank on the PlayStation 5. This is stuff we couldn't do previous generation. You need to settle down. That's not what we were talking about. My SSD in my PC is great. We're not talking about your PC. From a marketing standpoint, it makes zero sense for them to be even thinking about PCs at that point in time. I'll say it's special. There's some secret sauce in there. Listen, this debate has driven a lot of attention to the PlayStation 5. And if you look at the gameplay comparisons, this game's running really good for the PS5. Arguably, it's running better in the dimensional sections. Specifically in the dimensional sections, is running better. What do you think developers think about all this? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Look at how inconsistent this game runs across all these different configurations of SSDs and HDDs and NVMEs and, and giant PPs. Like, all this stuff out there, all these comparisons out there, all this different performance. And you know what's amazing? In every video, the PlayStation 5 is just trucking along. It's no problem. Developers are looking at it thinking, we can do stuff like that. Why don't we just build the game from the ground up for the PlayStation 5 architecture? Let's just kick it to Nixxes after. You're just making the PlayStation 5 look good. What's good, Lion? Hang on. I think Cowboys restated this a couple of times. Titanfall 2 did have a level where you were in the future, where everything was damaged, and you would press a button, and it took you to the past where everything was not damaged. Isn't that the same thing? No, that's simultaneous rendering. That's not the same, because they did something like this. There was a free update to Portal that did something very similar, Lion, where you had a third color, and it was green, and you could go into the past or the present. Was it past, present, or future, or just past and present? Can't remember. I think it was just past and present. So what you would do is if you moved a box in the past, it would then be there in the future. It's the same room. They're just rendering the two different versions of the room so you can whoop, 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 you can bounce back and forth. That's not what's happening in Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank is dinosaur land, pirate ship, outer space, and you're going flip, 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 flip. You're just going from boom, 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 boom. You're just going from one to the next, to the next, to the next. It's quite literally loading in the next area. And you're like, I'm here. It's not rendering. It's not simultaneous rendering like you see in a game like that Portal update or the Titanfall level or Medium. It's different technology. That's why it's important to be like, well, how are you doing that? Oh, it's the SSD. But it's not special. Nobody said it was special. I mean, fanboys might have said it was special, but Insomniac didn't say it was special. Quantum Error said that. Just F the cat. Just wait, okay? I have a Series S video planned. Yes. Another one. Yes, I have. F the cat says Insomniac's marketing worked. Xbots and PC Master Race fans bought the game to try to prove a point. Oh, it tastes good. I mean, the coffee tastes good. I'm sorry. We're starting to see games come out now with good releases, and I hope this keeps up. I don't know. This year has been super inconsistent. I want to throw confetti in the air. I do. Remnant 2, Well, as long as you're not playing on a PC, this year is pretty good. I am so sorry. PC Master Race, guys. I love you. I used to be on your side, but you guys have been getting really shafted this year. And I don't care because I don't play there that much. And as long as you don't play on PC, this is a pretty good year. It's a pretty good year. You know, Tears of the Kingdom, Final Fantasy 16, Remnant 2, Diablo 4 for, you know, the first week. That was pretty good. It wasn't too bad. Hi-Fi Rush, you know, it's been a pretty good year. We're not done yet. We got some good games on the way. We got Spider-Man. You know, we're all crossing our fingers that, like, Starfield's going to run fine on PC. A pretty good year of games. And actually, Exoprimal seems like it's doing okay. Although it's getting bad user scores. It got decent scores from review outlets, but it got bad user scores. I've not played it yet. Yo, DK Baker bumping us to 29. Come on, let's slowly, just one person bump it to 30. Tempt one of the big boys to drop a 20 bomb. Yeah, Lords of the Fallen. F-Cat made a good point. Went from hate watching to big fan. I love F the Cat. He and I are friends. We are friends now. You know, we're homies. We're homies. I'm going to say it. He upgraded from friend to homie, I think. That makes sense. You're traveling to a whole different stage with different characters. Makes sense. Yeah, and so some of it's that, Cowboy. I genuinely think that there's just people that just don't understand the technology. It's like what he was talking about in the video, he was kind of gushing about the tech. Yo, Thanos gets a gifted membership, bumping the line to 30. There you go. That's a nice layup. Let's see if one of the big boys slams a 20. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, Armored Core 6. Thank you, Kenneth Paris. It's a good year for gaming. Not a great year to be a PC player. I will say that. They've been getting it rough. And not in a good way, right? I will say this, though. Jedi Survivor has been my biggest disappointment this year. I didn't really give a frick about Redfall. I thought it was going to be a fun co-op game with my wife. You know, it turned out to be trash. But my biggest disappointment this year was Jedi Survivor. I still haven't touched it. It just runs so poorly. Yeah, Hogwarts came out this year. We forgot about Hogwarts. My wife beat that game. She played it for like 62 hours or something like that. It's been a good year for gaming. Liza P. Yeah, Liza P. If they can figure out some of the wonkiness with the dodging. You just need a good PC. I have a good PC. I just prefer to play on a console. My PC ran Ratchet and Clank yesterday just fine. 2080 Ti, an i9 9900, processor, 32 gig of RAM. It's a good little rig over there, humming for 4 years. I just prefer to play on a console. How was your time with Remnant 2? I like it. I have my gripes about stun lock and getting hit from damage out of frame. Remnant 2 runs bad on PC. Yeah, it's not running very well on PC. It's not a very good port. Yeah, Wolong was this year, was it not? It's a good year. Don't be afraid to say 9900K, still a good CPU. I just prefer to play on a console. Make fun of me all you want. I don't care, It's like making fun of me for driving a minivan. It's like, I love it. It's big, it's above the ground, it feels safe. When I went to the beach with my family, I had plenty of room for everything. When I go to buy furniture or groceries, I can shove it in the back, put the seats down, Yeah, but I drive this gas-guzzling truck. Okay, take out a loan to gas up your car. It's like they're making fun of me for that. It wouldn't make any sense. Kids like the Series S for Minecraft. I mean, that's not the discussion. That's really not the discussion. Here's what I think is likely to be the result of this, okay? Let's kind of bring it back to Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, PC. The people that are playing this right now on PC, Steam Deck, ROG Ally, okay? And in the hullabaloo and the fighting and the shouting, what's funny is they're basically passively cheering for Sony. Seriously. You're cheering for Sony. You want to know why? You're having fun with a piece of Sony property. You're praising a port from Nixxes, Sony company, and you're talking about how great two developers are underneath the PlayStation umbrella. So, you're dunking on the fanboys on Twitter. Oh, that's fine. If there were Sony fans on Twitter that were overstating the PlayStation 5 and the SSD, and you want to have some nice W's and dunks on them, you go right ahead. But you may want to slow down just a teeny bit. You're basically doing a lot of really great marketing for PlayStation. Alex tested the worst HDD possible. Game ran perfectly. That's false. It didn't run perfectly. No. The discussion is not... It has never been about whether or not you can run Ratchet and Clank on an HDD. The question was, can you do instantaneous dimensional shifting on an HDD? Because that's what Insomniac talked about. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a game with dimensions and dimensional tech, or however he phrases it. This is only made possible by the solid state drive in the PlayStation 5. Oh, but we got it to run on a hard drive. Good for you. That's never been the question. Insomniac never said you can't get this to run on a non-SSD. See, you keep running to PC, which is passive admittance that you don't understand the marketing. Insomniac was never marketing this game against PC hardware. That wouldn't make any sense. He literally says in one breath, we want to make new spaces for you to explore and worlds that feel real, and this was stuff we couldn't do on the previous generation. And in the next sentence, he talks about the dimensional shifting that is only possible on the SSD. But I got it to run on my computer with an old hard drive and my Steam Deck SD card. Shh. There's other ways to admit that you don't understand what's going on. You just admitted that you don't understand what's going on. You running it on an SD card in your Steam Deck, or you running it on HDD? Okay. How's that dimensional hopping? Oh, it's not instantaneous? Ratchet kind of flips there for a while. The game kind of stutters, lags, or just hangs there for a while. Okay. That's quite literally proving Insomniac right. You're not doing instantaneous dimensional shifting. That technology ain't working. Why? You need an SSD. That's... How is that considered, like, outlandish as a claim, by the way? How is that outlandish? 20 spot from Elios247, a $20 super chat tip. I think that developers will still think that games like Elden Ring and Zelda that are running on old hardware and still be considered the best AAA games, rather than, wow, look at Dimensional Rift, but that's my thinking. No. Developers love to push the envelope. They love to do big new things. They love it. If you go to developers right now and you ask them what they're trying to do, there's a handful of things that they're going to come up. They're going to talk about ray tracing, probably at some point, because ray tracing automates lighting. They basically say, yeah, here's the lumens, and then all the pathing for the lighting is done for them. It cuts down on development time. So they'll probably say something about ray tracing, and then they will probably say something about harnessing the lack of load times. Like, we can innovate on the fact now that there's no loading anymore. And that's something we couldn't do in the past. So they're either going to talk about ray tracing or something in that hemisphere of, like, textures, lighting, that kind of thing, or they're going to talk about the fact that, like, yeah, we can harness instantaneous loading now, so we can do larger areas, we can do more seamless experiences, we can do more intense, if you've seen some of the games now where they go from the cinematic right into gameplay seamlessly, they're harnessing more and more of that innovation. They're not going to say, nah, man, We don't want to do any of that cool new stuff. We're just going to make this old game with loading screens and ray tracing, schmay tracing. We don't need none of that. They're not saying that. Developers want to do all of the new things. They want to push the envelope. They've always done this. That's been one of the frustrations as a gamer, is that developers tend to take things to the very edge and then performance suffers. That's an age-old frustration as a gamer. So to act like what's happening right now, the debate about the debate around Ratchet and Clank and the rift hopping and the instantaneous loading, that conversation is making the PlayStation 5 look really, really sweet. That's the beautiful, tasty irony. All these people trying to hate on Sony are making Sony look real good right now. You're dunking on guys on Twitter. That's fine. Go ahead and dunk on them. There were people that were overstating the PlayStation 5's power and the SSD. That's fine. Dunk on those people. They're just out here being nasty most of the time anyway. Go ahead and dunk on them. I don't care. Both of the console tribalists are asking for it, right? They're putting their chin out and they're asking for somebody to take their block off. But in the process of doing that, all they're doing is inadvertently making Insomniac, PlayStation, and Nixxes look really freaking awesome. And that will impact the development world. It will. Developers right now are reading statements like this from this guy. He works at Insomniac, and they're going to say, yeah, look at what you can do on the PlayStation. Let's just build something from the ground up for the PlayStation. Look, you can harness the I/O, the data controller, and the SSD. You can do insanely cool things. And then, you kick it to PC later. 7 months from Cloud Strife. Lono, bless your soul. You've explained this in basic terms, and you still have people debating this. You can't make this up. Ignorance at its finest. Parasito with a $5 super chat. Lono, like you get lost when I post a tech breakdown. Players don't see more than pretty lights and okay FPS. Technical feats are lost on the public. This is true. Hilly says, the only part of this whole debate I thought was odd was the PC specs. Nothing to do with what they said. I understood what he was talking about, the PS4, but the minimum specs on Steam are BS minimum. 64, Windows 10, Intel Core i3, 8100, 8 gig of RAM. What? That seems really low. NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960. This is incorrect. This is... Oh, that's recommended? That seems awfully weak for recommended. I can't see that running very well. I'm not a tech guy, but 8 gig of RAM and a GTX 960? I don't know. Oh, that was for the 720 minimum? Oh, he said it was for recommended. Can you come in the shop so we can talk about it? Yeah, that's helpful. Somebody said I was damage controlling. What, Andre Clay? What am I damage controlling though? What? The port is being praised. The Nixxes is being praised for a great port. The game is getting great reviews. Let's go to Steam and see how it's doing. Let's go to Steam and see how it's doing. Previous releases, Steam database. Let's scroll down to yesterday, and let's click on Ratchet and Clank. 733 reviews. It has an 84%. That's great. That's a very positive review on Steam. It's what damage controlling is there needed here? What is it? What's the damage? It performed really well during Lono's gameplay yesterday. Yeah, I didn't have any issues. I only had those slight stutters during the dimensional rifts, and then there is some kind of a memory leak. We're not sure where. When I went to the new area as Rivet, my performance started acting funny. I restarted the game and it went away. I had ray tracing at high. I had settings at high, 1440-60, and it ran like a dream. I didn't have any issues. Now, the memory leak could have been because I kept messing with settings and I was like dropping things down and bumping things up, and that could have been what caused it. The memory leak could have been caused by the fact that I was in a totally new area and maybe it didn't release the stuff from the previous area. I don't know. 8 gig of RAM for 720 is actually pretty crazy. Oh, hang on. Hilly's showing me something. SSD recommended, SSD required. That is weird. They changed it on Steam. The minimum requirements, they're saying SSD recommended, and for minimum. For minimum, it says SSD recommended. For recommended, it says SSD required. Yo, thank you so much for coming back as a member plus, Chris Toast. Good to see you. Apart from mild stutters, how did it compare to the PS5? I mean, this is my gameplay right here. Obviously, YouTube does its own compression and artifacting, so you're not going to quite see it as good as I did. Now, this section, we had some issues because of the rain and the shooting and the fog and the particle effects. This is where I started to drop frames. I was in like the 50s, I think. For damage controlling on a great PC port. Yeah, I don't know what damage controlling you would think that I'm doing. Keep in mind, those min-spec GPUs only have 2 gig of VRAM. Jeepers. I thought it looked and ran great. Obviously, the superior place to play the game is PS5, unless if you have an absolute top-of-the-line rig and you can turn everything up full blast and run like 4K with all the ray tracing and all the goodies, and you're maintaining 60, well, then that's the superior place to play. But that's like that's like 0.5% of the market. The average PC user doesn't have a rig like that. It's like literally the smallest portion of the user base. So to the average consumer, see, this is what's super, super interesting to me. If you look at the Steam hardware reports, the average person will not be able to play Ratchet and Clank better than how it runs on a PS5. I'm serious. If you look at the hardware reports, the average person right now downloading Ratchet and Clank, booting it up and playing it, it's not going to look as good as the PS5. It isn't. That's one of the weird ironies in this discussion is most of the people out here going hard in the paint for PC, they probably don't even have a rig that's strong enough to run the game better than PS5 performance. You put this on a mid-lane rig, and it's not going to run better than how it runs on the PS5. Now, some of that's a little bit unfair because it was built for the PS5, but again, I don't think people quite understand that the debate about PC Master Race and these ports, and this will run so much better on PC. Yes, if you're one of the teeny tiny percentage points of the PC user base that has a rig that strong. AOZ with a 12-month subscription, it's a VIP gold. This angle where PlayStation haters try to make devs look like they are trying to deprive PS4 or PC is just weird. They're just making games for a target platform and leveraging the resources. Gold badge, baby! Oh, did I miss your resub, Rainbow? Hang on. Ric Flair. I missed Ric Flair. Ric Flair. Woo! Welcome back, Ric Flair, with 22 months. Oh, Rainbow with 20 months. Let's hit some likes up to 300 and some members too. Thank you so much, Rainbow. And Garrett Green jumped back in. I'm sorry I missed that one, Rainbow. I can pull up fan funding and see it. Yeah, let's push to the next milestone of 50. This was a nice layup. They bumped the line to 30. Let's see somebody slam it home. 0.5% of Steam users have a 4090. That's crazy. Dubear says the average gamer is still at 1080p. Could have a decent experience on 1080 with a mid-level PC. Sure. But that's running lower than it would on the PS5. That you see what I'm saying? That's the point. That's the weird irony in this entire discussion. Most of the people talking about this could play Ratchet and Clank at about as good as you're going to get, but for $400. Just go buy a $400 digital version of the PS5. Dave with 7 months says, hi, welcome back, Dave. A $5 super chat tip. Actually, Lono, doing the math, around 25 million people minimum have PCs equivalent to PS5 level of performance or higher. Okay. 25 million out of the entire PC landscape. That's not a high percentage. That's the point, right? How many PC users are out there globally? That's why I said the vast majority of people on PCs right now can't play this game better than it runs on a PS5. A percentage can, sure, but they're a smaller percentage. They're not the majority. Because it was a bad port? This has not been a bad port. All port reviews are praising it. Oh no, Alex praised it. Digital Foundry praised it. People are praising this as a port. Nobody's concluding this is a bad port. I've not seen that anywhere. Other than people that don't understand ports. Like on Twitter, they don't count. They're not tech analysis experts. They're morons. A Belly Boy with the 5 gifted members. Bumps at the 35. Thank you so much, Belly Boy. PS5 Pro coming out? Yeah, probably fourth quarter next year. 62% of Steam users have a 1920 by 1080. 63% of users with multiple monitors are dual 1080. Yeah, that's the majority. That's the majority. I want a Slim. There's not going to be a PlayStation 5 Slim. They're unifying the SKU. Now, it might be slightly smaller. I don't think they're going to call it a Slim. They're unifying the SKU. They're getting rid of the disk drive PlayStation 5. You will only be able to buy the digital. It will streamline production, make it cheaper for them to make them because they'll be able to streamline production, lower cost for you. They're going to hit their market saturation goals. Middle of next year, they'll announce the PS5 Pro, and it'll come out fourth quarter. They're setting things up to have... They're trying to maximize saturation of PS5 first before they launch PS5 Pro. Launching a Slim wouldn't make any sense. It might be slightly different in its dimensions, but Tommy Hendy's like, I've not heard anything about a Slim. I've heard about unifying the SKU. No disc? Yeah, they're going to sell an external disk drive. It was either a bad port or it's people with potatoes that are having a problem. Even people that are running it on weaker rigs aren't having a terrible experience. Disk drive PS5, something of a collector's item. I mean, I guess. I've got one of each. I've got the digital and a disk drive. I've got 2. So my wife and I can play games in the living room. I was hoping we could play Remnant 2 together, but that game on easy is still ridiculously hard. It wouldn't be fun. They're telling people to play at this level with an HDD at your own risk. That sounds minimum to me. Yeah, John Linneman said that when they ran it on an HDD and they increased up from very low settings, that the game crashed. I'm fairly certain in Alex's video, he ran it on a 7200 and a 5400. I don't think he had it on very low. Is he still in chat? The people that watched his video, when Alex ran it on the 7200 and the 5400, what settings did he put the game on? Did he put it on? I don't think he put it on very low. It didn't look like it was on very low. It looked like it was on good settings. And it ran fine for him. So not everybody's having that experience, but John Linneman's like, when we ran it on a hard drive, if we raised it up from very low, it crashed. So if you're running this thing on a non-SSD, your experience is going to vary. It's really, really going to vary. This was such a fun fight right here. Like, using iframes in fights like this is so fun. You can tell that I've been playing harder games because I'm more aggressive with it, like staying up in the fight and using the iframes. Like in the past, I wouldn't have played like that. I'd have played a lot safer. The Digital Foundry lied? No. Digital Foundry didn't lie. Where's the lie? Remnant's very hard when you first start, but the more you play, you learn, it gets better. I applaud you for trying to get people to understand the simplest of things every day. I know it's exhausting. I appreciate that, Patrick. On PC, you have far more factors than just the hard drive. It also what the device is, also what device the decompression is being done on, CPU or GPU. Do you think the external disk drive that you get for the PS5 should work with the PS5 Pro? It will likely be designed to work with both, yes. The PS5 Pro will likely not have a disk drive. They'll do one model of the PS5 Pro. I think that's a very fair assumption to make, yes. Because it's going to use that same... Eugene, is it going to have to use the USB on the front? Because if it does, will you not be able to use it for PSVR 2 games? Because the PSVR 2 uses that slot on the front. Won't it need to use that slot instead of the standard USBs on the back? True SSJ Havoc with a $5 super chat tip says true, but do we really want to count office PCs or internet cafes in Asia? Also, people miss the point of PC gaming. The point that I was making, True Havoc, the average person that you're talking to on the internet is not running a monster rig. The math is against that reality. Now, sure, you want to talk about guys that make the videos and have the YouTube channels, guys like Alex and others, they have monster rigs. We have to admit they're not the majority. They're not the majority. That's the only point that I was making is the average user, the average person on a PC right now, if they're wanting to play Ratchet and Clank there's let's just say there's two ways to play Ratchet and Clank. There's crazy high fidelity on a PC, and then there's right beneath that. Right beneath that's PS5. PS5 has 4 versions. It has fidelity, ray tracing performance, and performance. And then if you have a 120 hertz monitor or television, you can run fidelity at a 120 hertz refresh rate and get 40 FPS. So there's 4 performance modes on the PlayStation 5 for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. The average person can just buy a PlayStation 5 and have one of those experiences. If your PC is not stronger than that, than the performance you get on PS5, then what are we even talking about? That's my point. It's like, just buy a PlayStation 5. I think the biggest rub is that, people want to use mouse and keyboard. I could understand that. I could totally understand somebody being like, oh no, I want mouse and keyboard. I don't want to use a controller. The reason why they make min specs is to cater to the average user. Yeah, right? Like, If you're trying to cater to you're trying to maximize sales, that's gonna be a factor. You're not gonna make the game only playable on like a 4090. It's crazy value for everything you get. Right, we said this a long time ago. I don't work for Sony. I'm not trying to sell PlayStation 5s. But if you're looking at upgrading your CPU, your memory, and your GPU, throw all that in the cart at Newegg, and then compare that to a $400 PS5. Come on. Come on. Just do it. Just buy one. It's simple. It's a simple decision. What are you committed to? You gotta have the RGBs? The 5400 RPM playthrough was min setting 7020. Oh, on Alex's video, he actually had the settings set at 720. What about the 7200? You got to think there can't be that many people installing this on a 5400. Good night. Forgot to switch to live chat again. No worries, Rainbow. I meant when developers are saying that Zelda was a miracle, that has a big impact on what developers want to do in the future. We're literally seeing a lot of Souls-like games because of Elden Ring. Sure, Elios. I don't disagree with you. I don't. But there's 2 things developers like to do. They like to innovate, and they like to harness power. Dan Zatastic with 5 gifted members. Somebody could slam it home with a 10 bomb. He lays it up to 40 out of 50. Thank you so much. Every 25 members, I gift 5. We do members content every day. Tomorrow night's going to be a great time. You'll get to get a recap and an AMA. My wife joins me. We have some drinks. We do a bit of a talk show, just the 2 of us. And then we're going to play Viewfinder, that really cool puzzle game on the PlayStation 5. We'll take turns trying to solve the puzzles. It's a really, really cool game. It's awesome. It's so creative. Yeah, I saw that Lords of the Fallen dropped new gameplay. I saw that. The consoles have native mouse and keyboard support. Right, that's the problem, Eugene. It's up to the devs. So I can 100% understand why a PC user would be like, brother, I don't want to come over there. Some games support mouse and keyboard. Some games don't. They're not going to want to roll that dice if they want to use mouse and keyboard. You got 12 credits. 1 credit is expiring in the next 30 days on Audible. Dadgummit. All right, fine. I was listening to the Children of Hurin. I was listening to Children of Hurin. Maybe what should we listen to next then? The Fall of Numenor? Should we listen to The Fall of Gondolin? The Fall of Gondolin has way more ratings than The Fall of Numenor. Let's do The Fall of Gondolin, because Gondolin is in the Children of Hurin. It's the hidden place that they're sworn to secrecy. This is read by Timothy West and Samuel West. Oh, the one I'm listening to now is read by Christopher Lee. Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Oh, didn't he pass away, though? Yo, Algyron with a gifted member. Thank you so much. Taking us to 41. 41 on the day. You the best. That one's good, gangs. Is it good? Children of Hurin's been fantastic. It's been very, very good. It's tragic, but it's so cool. Oh, man. Beleg was Beleg's my favorite. Beleg's awesome. He's so cool. Why are some people trying to run Rift Apart on powerful PCs to claim Insomniac lied when they're talking about Rift Apart not being possible on old tech with the rifts loading near instantly? Dave Langer, this is what happened. Let me give you guys a summary of what happened, okay? Basically, there was a big battle raging at the time. I was not aware that fight was going on. I remember playing Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and I remember Mo. It was Big Mad Mo. He's a big Xbox guy. He's a longtime supporter of the channel. He's a good guy. He was coming in here and spouting off that this game could have run on a PlayStation 3. So there was a war raging between the fanboys of the consoles where, oh, they lied to you. That game's not that impressive. It could have run on a PlayStation 3. Why? Because it looked incredible and Xbox fans were butthurt because they had nothing to play, right? Series X drops, nothing to play. And in 2021, PlayStation just absolutely brought the heat. Demon Souls Remake, Returnal, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Like, they were dropping heat, okay? And Xbox wasn't. And people were trying to denigrate Rift Apart. So there's this article, there's this guy who developed a Lego game for the PS3. Hang on, I need to thank True SSJ Havoc. A $10 super chat. The average person talking on the internet can also be part of the small minority. I have both PC and PS5. I'm just saying, it's not about matching at the console. PC gaming is more than res and FPS. I appreciate that. I think we're passing in the night, Havoc. My point was to a specific group of people. My point was, hey, if your rig right now would need to upgrade to run Ratchet and Clank or Returnal or God of War 2018 or Days Gone, any of those titles, if you want to run them as good as the PS5 and you'd have to upgrade your rig, a PS5 is $400. That was just my point. That was just the point that I was making, okay? I think we're passing in the night. So, back then, everyone was running with that narrative. Now, the guy that claimed that, I think his name was Tom Burton, he claimed that they did instantaneous loading of 2 areas in a Lego game on the PlayStation 3. And he was trying to claim that you could have done that in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. His claims have been falsified. They tried to run the game on a PlayStation 4 hard drive and it ran like crap. And this developer weighed in and said bringing down stream time that rough on a PS4 would take enormous dev time. We'd never have been able to iterate and commit to crafting multiple sequences like this across the game. Those claims have been falsified. But because of those claims and because of that debate, everyone today is now trying to fight some weird fight of oh, Insomniac lied. Insomniac lied to you. I had a guy yesterday telling me, like, oh, you're just salty because they lied to you. I'm like, what are you talking about? I wasn't even aware of this stupid fight back when I got Ratchet and Clank. I played it. I loved it. I beat it. I had an absolute blast with it. So that's why we're having this discussion today, because that fight's been brewing for a really long time. Ratchet and Clank dropped and was just an absolute slam dunk win for Sony and everybody who had a PlayStation 5 at the time. And this is one of the things that I've always found confusing. When a good game comes out, I just look at the game and judge it based on its merits, right? Like Forza, as an example. I'm like, yeah, that's a great game. Hi-Fi Rush, that's a great game. I didn't try to find flaws and problems with Hi-Fi Rush. My daughter played it and she loved it. My daughter beat that game. She's been beating games. She beat Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and she was doing New Game Plus in that game. My daughter is a beast, okay? Then she beat Hi-Fi Rush. Then she beat Stray, and right now she's working on Chia. And so, those are just good games. My kid's just playing good games. That's a Switch game. That's an Xbox game. That's a PlayStation game. Are you noticing a trend? Even my daughter is just going where the games are. She's just going where the games are. She doesn't care. She doesn't care. Why? She's just like me. She's taking after her dad. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Hi-Fi Rush, Stray. All 3 systems. She's got 3 really cool notches in her gamer belt. The reason that she's doing that is because she lives in a home that has every system and just celebrates good games. I'm not trying to instill in her some kind of like, oh yeah, but that's on the Xbox, kiddo. Oh yeah. Come on. That's why when all of a sudden I got thrust into all of this, I was like, I don't understand why is this happening? I remember playing Ratchet and Clank. I remember being bewildered by people coming in and bashing the game. I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Well, this game could have run on a PS3. Huh? Why are you saying that? Who's talking about that? Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart made for PlayStation console hardware. No wonder it failed on PC. But it didn't fail on PC. What do you mean? Confirm your... Oh, I gotta confirm my plan. Confirm! You can get a great PC for $1,500 that outclasses both current gen consoles and raw power. Maybe. In the context of the discussion, maybe. You get a bunch of these PlayStation 5 games like Spider-Man, Miles Morales. You get Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, God of War 2018, Days Gone. You get all those games on your PC, on your $1,500 PC. I'd put money on the table that you're not going to outclass the PlayStation 5 by much. I don't think you will. It'd be close. I think you got to spend quite a bit more than that. If you really want to outclass the PlayStation 5, especially with its own titles, you're going to need to spend a little bit more than that. Because the games are built for PlayStation 5, so you have to have a significantly stronger rig to make up for some of that. They're good ports, but come on. Even the dimensional sections aren't running as well on high-level rigs. Now, the rest of the game, sure. I said raw power, not optimization, bruh. Okay. Who cares about that? Raw power? Good for you. What are you gonna... That's like bragging about the raw power of your truck and then taking it on a golf course. Okay? Who cares about that? Y'all need to read. I specifically said raw power, not optimization. Even raw power, I don't know if what you're saying is true. For $1,500, you think you can just outclass the PlayStation 5 in raw power? It's going to be a close race, dude. It's actually going to be a closer race. If you go right now and spend $1,500 on a rig, and you look at all the breakdowns of the PlayStation 5 and the Series X and what it's equal to in hardware, you have to go above that. For $1,500, you better get some things on sale. You're going to have to get some things on sale, dude. You are, I would say for $2,000, no question, for sure. Yep. I would not doubt it at all that right now you could go drop $2,000 and you could outclass PS5 Series X in raw power. But if you look at the video cards and the CPU and the SSD and all of those peripherals, everything that's been sort of said, like, okay, what's the Series X and the PS5 like comparable to in the PC world? Buying all of that, buying equipment that is stronger than all of that for $1,500, you're going to have to bargain shop. You're going to have to look for sales. You can't just go buy stuff at sticker price. And that's fine. The funny thing is that you're still talking about spending more money. You're still talking about spending more money. Let's just grant the $1,500, right? Let's just grant it. Okay, $1,500, fine. You find some good deals, you find some good prices, maybe some stuff in the market fluctuates and some prices drop, and I don't know, memory and graphics cards within that hemisphere drop in price or whatever. $1,500. Okay, cool. You can buy a PS5 for $400, Series X for $500. You're at $900. You can still buy the PSVR 2. And you're still coming in lower. Do you see? It's like, well, okay, if you're $1,500, good job. Yeah, you spent $1,500. Yeah, you're outclassing these two boxes in raw power. I can spend less than that, have both consoles and the PSVR 2. So it all comes down to what you value, right? If you're like, well, I value the raw power. Okay. What sort of performance differences do you think you're going to get in the games? Marginal at best. Well, I have more raw power than the PS5. Okay. How are those multi-plat games running for you? How are the ports from PlayStation 5 running for you? Did the money you spent on raw power suddenly convert into some infinitely better experience? I don't think so. I think you could demonstrate that that's just not true. You could objectively demonstrate that that's not true. You could literally break down the performance and say, look at the performance. It's negligible, the difference on a rig like that compared to these rigs over here, especially when you're playing these multi-plat games that are coming out. Unless it's Capcom, nobody seems to know how to launch a freaking multi-plat game on PC. Capcom seems to be the only ones that know how to do it. You can, but an OLED 120Hz TV for $1,000 and still get a PS5. Hang on. Zippy Narwhal, no fault to Insomniac here with a $5 super chat tip. The blame is on Xbox fanboys being morons and PlayStation fanboys overselling the PS5's SSD as the greatest creation since gaming. SSJ Havoc, PC part picker, has an AMD build that passes the consoles at 922. Okay. So there you go. You can do it for, taxes is going to bring that to $1,000, right? You have to already have a really good monitor. You have a really good monitor. Probably going to want to get a nice mouse and keyboard. Let's just round that up to $1,000. I just think you're comparing things. Forget the Series X. You're talking about spending $1,000. For $1,000, I can get the PS5 digital and a PSVR 2, and I feel like I'm in a significantly better position than you. It's all a matter of the subjectivity of the consumer. Because that raw power that you have, if I go and do side-by-side comparisons of your rig running multi-plat games and PlayStation 5 ports, I'm looking way better than you are. I'm looking way better than you are, and we spent the same amount of money, and I've got a VR. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you that you're wrong. I'm saying if you really look at it objectively, the differences between what you're getting are negligible. Oh, you got a little bit better lighting and textures. Okay. That's negligible. The difference there is so minimal. Remnant 2 devs literally designed the game to run with upscalers. Did I say something about Remnant 2 that was wrong, or are you talking to somebody else, Wheeze? Remnant 2 is being decried as a pretty bad port. That's all. I've seen that narrative from the PC user base. Is they're not happy with its performance. My man out here, big brain, PSVR 2, PS5 combo. I wouldn't call the frames negligible. I would. Because, I'm only going to get 60 and you're going to get, what, 90 to 120? I think that's negligible. Again, that's subjective to me, but I think the difference between 60 and 90 or 60 and 120, we spent the same amount of money. I got more. I got more equipment. You got more frames. Okay. 90 to 120? I feel like you have to spend quite a bit more money to visibly, like, really strongly outclass those games in particular. There's nothing to do with PCs when devs say we didn't want to optimize, we just depended on upscalers. Right. I'm not besmirching PCs, Wheezy. I'm saying in the market right now, I feel like that's a really, really good bargain and a great value. $1,000 on PC part picker for something that will outclass the PS5 in certain areas, but PS5 is putting up a good fight in those comparisons. If you look at multi-plat games, if you look at PS5 games that have been ported to PC, that $1,000 rig and the PlayStation 5 is putting up a heck of a fight for less money. Forget the PSVR 2 for a second. You're comparing $1,000 to $400. That's my point. Is like you spent $600 more than me. Did you get double? You spent more than double. Did you get double? Did you? Did you get double the power? Did you get double the performance? I don't think you did. You got to spend closer to $2,000 to really land those blows and say, no, this system is significantly stronger and better. Think about when the PS5 Pro comes out and it's around $600. We're going to have the same discussion then. 600 versus 1,000. You're spending almost double. Are you getting double? Are you getting Spider-Man 2? For me, the price of the hardware has been subsidized by not needing to pay to use my own internet and what I save on games. I think that's valid. If you're looking at it from an economic standpoint, you spent double, but then over time, you get that back, right? What am I spending to play online? What is that a month? I mean, I'm already paying for PS Plus for the demo, the trials and the games. The online's thrown in, is it not? So what's the basic that you need? What's the basic price to play games online? That's not a bad pushback. Well, yeah, I spent more than you, but you're paying to play games online. That's fair. I don't understand why they haven't done away with that yet. It just seems stupid. So PC gaming is a waste of money? No, you're putting words in my mouth. I know that'll make a great clip for a video from a disingenuous bottom feeder, but that's not what I was saying. I was saying that it's not as simple as being like, oh, I can spend $1,000 and I get a rig that's way stronger than your PS5. Well, no, not really. I mean, yes and no. Like, I can spend $400 and my PlayStation 5's holding up. It's not losing dramatically against a $1,000 rig. It's not. I'm not saying it's a waste of money. I have a nice rig myself. I want to get an even nicer rig. True SSJ Havoc with a $5 super chat. you also got to understand you have much more utility on a PC. PC's a PC. It's not just a gaming machine. I mean, yeah, I'll grant you that, sure, because if you want to do other things, if you want to do video editing, I don't know, if you get in, I guess if you just like to do, you know, more simplified web browsing, you know, using sites and stuff like YouTube and stuff, obviously it's more streamlined on a PC, because a lot of times like the YouTube apps and stuff on the consoles aren't that good. They're okay. I prefer to use most of that stuff on a PC myself. If I'm going to like browse the internet or use YouTube, I'm either going to do it on my phone or a PC. I don't like doing that on a console. In this context, the other uses are irrelevant. Sure, yeah, I think we're like passing in the night. I was simply saying that for a lot of people, being so beholden to like, no, PC master race. How strong's your rig? According to Steam charts, a lot of y'all out here don't even have rigs that are stronger. They're not going to make the games look better than the PlayStation 5. If you're out here dropping a couple grand, man, more power to you. You go, girl. Do it. Parasito with a $5 super chat tip. You get a much larger game library, and if you're in a situation where you work and play on the same machine, it just makes sense to have the horsepower. Thank you for the $5 super chat tip. Yeah, I will never fight against that argument. Getting access to Steam, man, my gosh, that's a huge advantage. Look at all the early access games, all the demos, all the indie titles. Man, Steam gets all those things first. That's a huge advantage. No doubt. I would never argue against that. I was purely looking at the power argument, the performance argument, because within the context of today's discussion, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, PC, gameplay, performance. Where should you play this game? Where should you play it? The average $1,000 rig is not running this game better than it runs on PS5. It's not. The Rift sections aren't going to run as well. There's little stutters and hitches because it was built from the ground up for the PS5. You have to have, in my mind, you have to have a significantly stronger rig. So I'm looking at that and thinking, listen, if you're on a PC right now, this was the argument I was making. If you're on a PC right now that's going to run this somewhat, you know, not as good as a PlayStation 5, and you'd have to upgrade your rig, compare the money. $400 for a digital PS5 or all the parts you'd have to buy to upgrade your rig. That's the point I was making. It's not as clean cut as people always want to make it. And I think the PS5 Pro is even going to add to that. I think it's going to even push that needle even closer. I think PC users are going to go, not all, but some are going to say, $600 isn't bad. That thing's pretty strong. It's doing some pretty nice stuff. Now, again, if you want mouse and keyboard native support for every game, that's going to be a big sticking point. You just won't come over because that's always going to be a challenge. They offer it. PlayStation allows it. So does Xbox. But the developers have to put it in there. Some developers have removed it. Like, Destiny removed it, did they not? Hang on. Who cares about money? Slight graphic improvements? No. Even if it's slight, it's better. Hang on. I pay for the better. So 4090, let's go. Yeah, and Randall, here's the thing. I think that's totally fine. If that's what you value, man, if you're going to swipe that credit card and be like, give me the best, I want to squeeze every drop of sweat out of this game, and you're going to spend for top shelf, man, go for it, brother. I think that's a huge advantage in PC is you have more volition and more control over those things because you can upgrade the rig. You can buy better parts. Hang on, Zubair said something. Your language gets a little loose with the information that the PS5 is just sort of a monster rig. We will revisit that once you're playing on your new monster rig. I didn't say it was just short of a monster rig. That's no. I never said it was just short of a monster rig. I said that if you went out and bought $1,000 rig, it would be short of that. it would fight well against a $1,000 rig. I think that's fair to say. You go to PC Part Picker right now and you buy that rig that he was talking about for $1,000, PlayStation 5 is going to hold its own against that. It's not going to get left in the dust. I was saying you have to go to a monster rig to see those big differences. That's what I was arguing. Either I misspoke or you misunderstood me. I was never trying to argue that, like, yeah, the PS5 is going to hold its own against a monster rig. No, it's going to hold its own against about a $1,000 rig. PS5 is just short of Lono's current rig. Right, I have a 2080 Ti rig right now. My PS5 goes toe-to-toe with it. That rig is, if you want to build the rig I have right now, you're not building it for $1,000. I don't think so. Now, I don't know what I paid for it. It was expensive at the time. That's 4 years ago. Pricing and all that's changed, but it was not cheap. Right price versus price of the PS5 is holding its own and winning. Wheezy says, for me, I pay more for hardware. I save on games and my library has stayed with me for decades. Keep in mind this generation luckily has backwards compatibility. Sure. No one can rationally argue against the value of the console. Right. I think the main reasons you're going to see PC guys always say, like, no thank you to a console, you're always going to have that sticking point be mouse and keyboard. Even if, like, right now, if you could flip a switch, the PS5 Pro lands and it's equal to like a $1,500 PC for $600, that's always going to be a sticking point for PC guys. They're going to be like, yeah, but I mouse and keyboard, man. I'm not going playing on a freaking controller. It's a 4-year-old card. If you're paying more than more than $1K, you're getting robbed. No, I wasn't saying the exact parts, Wheezy. I was saying, like, the power. My rig's power. If you want to buy a rig that slightly edges out the PlayStation 5, I feel like you're going to have to spend... You're not going to be able to do that for $1,000. You're going to have to spend a little bit more than that, aren't you? You're going to spend at least $1,500. I'm not saying literally buy all of my old components. That's not what I was saying. We have a larger library, better prices, lots of flexibility. Sure. Like I said earlier, I'll never argue against the library. I'll never argue against access to Steam. Right? A rig with that power is like $700? Really? Basically a 6700? An i9 9900, 64 gig of RAM, couple SSDs, and a 2080 Ti. You're telling me I could build a rig equal to that in strength for $700? I'm not in that world. 5 years ago, sure. Well, yeah, it's a 4-year-old rig. You try to build something comparable to it right now, you're saying it would cost $700. I have a $700 rig sitting right there, is what you're telling me. That's crazy. There's a spot in my back that I just cannot get to pop. Send a link, I'll buy it today. It's only worth $700. I guess I'm selling it for $700. The rig I found had a 6700 XT. If graphics prices were where they should be, it would be different, but GPU prices are still high, says Zubair. $2 super chat tip. The only monster that eats monsters is the X. You could build that exact rig for $700-800. Okay. You're still spending more. You're still spending double the $400 for the digital PS5. I feel like my point still stands. You're still spending twice as much. Are you getting twice as much power? That's all I'm saying. Is that if you're looking at the two options on the shelf and you're like, $700-800, and you got $400 for the PS5, I don't know. I don't think we're saying $700 for the 2080. I think he's saying $700 for the whole rig. You're being robbed if you pay that much. A 4060 is 600. Woo! 2080 Ti selling used right now for 200 range. Okay. Yeah, so that's used. So you're seeing them for 500 right now. Right. So you're in the 200 to 500 range just to get the GPU. Then you got to get all the other parts. Estimated total PC cost, if you add in a 200 for the case, PSU and the miscellaneous, 1150. Estimated AMD, you're going to spend 100 just for the SSD. That's what I'm saying. Like 2 SSDs, a comparable CPU, a comparable video card, the tower, the motherboard, the 32 gigs of RAM that I have. You're going to buy all of that for, let's just say you get it in the $700 to $800 range. Again, that's the point that I've been making. You're spending twice as much. Now you're going to push back and say, but I get Steam, but I get the library, but I get flexibility, but I can get online. That's not what I was talking about. That's not what I was talking about. If we're looking at performance, you're not buying a rig that's going to blow the PS5 out of the water. It's not going to have twice the performance. It's not. It isn't. That's the point I was making. Is like, if you're arguing just based on power and performance, the PlayStation 5 is an absolute steal. There's all those other factors that come in. That's why when people talk about this and they talk about, oh, you pay for inferior performance and you know PC Master Race and all the frames, and it's like, yeah, if you spend a significant amount of money, if you spend $700 to $1,000, you're not blowing the PS5 out of the water. You're not. That's the point. You're spending 2 to 3 times more, and you're not getting 2 to 3 times the performance. You simply aren't. Now, again, that's when you're going to have to come back and say, but I get access to Steam, but I get access to way more of a library. I don't have to pay to go online. Those are all fair points. But that's never what the debate online is about. PC Master Race, almost every time I see the debates, it's never about, oh, but Steam and library freedom. Now, there are some people that will say that. They'll take it that way. They're being, I would say they're being more intellectual. They're actually making a better argument and a better case. But whenever it comes to the performance argument and the power argument, I'm like, brother, I don't know what you paid for, but the average PC out there, according to Steam charts right now, is not blowing the PlayStation 5 out of the water. And when the PlayStation 5 Pro lands, it's going to be even more slanted. If I'm telling you, if I was right now, if I was PlayStation, I would be coming up with not just native mouse and keyboard support, I would have native binding so that you can play any game with a mouse and keyboard. I would be pushing your first-party studios to add native mouse and keyboard support. That's what I'd be doing. I'd be investing in that. Because if you can start to convince those people to come over, like, hey, this thing's strong, this thing's pretty strong, and if you want to buy a rig this strong, it isn't going to be $600. PS5 Pro on paper is a 6700 XT that isn't more slanted. I would need Steam on console. Yeah, I mean, that would be the other barrier, Wheeze, is that you would want to, you want that digital library continuity, and I get that. Steam's never, you're right, that's not going to happen. They're never going to do that. That just isn't going to happen. That's the other sticking point. AMD is putting out an X3D APU for laptops. I really want to see how that performs. That may be a game changer. Even then, why even bother with any of that just to match and only match console performance. Not worth it, in my opinion. If I'm going PC, it needs to blow the console out of the water in every way, especially performance and graphics. That's my thinking on it, Solemn. Like, if I'm going to upgrade my rig, I'm going to swing all the way for the fences. I'm going to reach up to the top shelf. Short joke. Here they come, right? I'm going to reach up to the top shelf and grab all the best stuff, because it's like, well, I'm not... Why even bother doing it if you're not going to absolutely go crazy? And like everybody else, I'll probably be infuriated by all these terrible PC ports that have been coming out. Because I'll be like, yeah, I spent all this money to get great performance, and I'm not getting it. For $400, you're not even getting close to current-gen console performance unless you get literal charity parts and used parts at very rare great deals. Everything is brand new on the console. You mean hop on the stool? There it is. Somebody had to make the short joke when I said reach up to the top shelf. Somebody had to. Ghost of Tsushima 2. Don't play with my emotions, man. Reach up or climb up. There we go. There's another one. Thanks, your order is complete. Friendly reminder, I'm getting a haircut on Saturday. Okay. Good golly. That Diablo stream from the other day. Whew. Just admit that you all buy PCs so you can have an excuse to buy fancy LED mice and keyboards. That's right. That's all. It's all about. Listen, baby, it's all about the RGB. That's all that matters. You know, you got to have the little pretty stuff going on. When I was growing up, PC towers were ugly. I mean, ugly. They were that white plastic that, if you went over to your friend's house and there was a smoker in the house, that white plastic was yellow. It was gross. They were freaking ugly, brother. Yeah, they were like a white or like a beige. They were like the same color as a pair of khakis. And not the good khakis, like the real light Dockers your mom would make you wear to picture day. They were ugly, dude. And your mouse had a ball in it. And you had to take the ball out and scrape the dust off the wheels. Those little dust tracks. Ugh. And there'd be hair in there sometimes. Frickin' awful. The absolute worst. I remember when USB dropped and my friend said, you can unplug it and plug it in without turning the computer off. Because serial ports, you couldn't do that. It was like a big deal. USB. That was a big deal. Oh, man. This is my mouse since it released. Oh, I have that one. I have that one somewhere around here. I use it in my living room, on the rig in the living room. The wireless Logitech one. Yeah. I think they sent that one to me. I remember when SCSI was the future. Mm-hmm. The good old days. For less than 1K, you can get a 3070, 5800 CPU, decent MOBO, 32 gig of RAM, an NVMe 1 gig drive. Yeah, and that's fine. Again, my question would be, Dark City, are you getting double? Or, because 400 to 1,000? If you buy any other peripherals and that gets close to 1,200, especially after taxes, are you getting triple the performance? Are you? You're getting better performance. I'll never deny that. That thing's going to run better. It is. I'm looking at these PS5 games and I'm saying, I don't know about that. Seeing some of the PS5 Pro talk the other day, do you think it's really happening? Oh, it's happening. Yes. Tom Henderson, when the PlayStation Q was announced, he had already told people that was coming, and people doubted him. And when they dropped the PlayStation Q announcement, he says, are y'all doubting me on the PlayStation 5 Pro? And he even said, the PlayStation 5 Pro specs, he's like, maybe I should drop them. It's real. It's coming. It's going to be very interesting what it does to the console market space. Very interesting. We doing computer pics now? I don't really need to see pics of your computer. No, thank you. That reminds me, I need to re-up on some free AOL discs. I was a paperboy, and on Sundays, those were the worst days. Those were the worst days because it was like the extra big paper, and they would stuff in those stupid AOL, those stupid like free internet discs. Oh man, all that crap. It made the paper so heavy. I hated that. To be fair, the queue was too ridiculous to believe it was true. I don't think so. I told people it was real. I said, this is real. This is where things are going. And to this date, people still don't understand remote play. They don't understand remote play. They think you have to be in your home to use it. It's like, what? No. Literally, Doc Dark just put out a video recently, and he was saying, that's not that big of a deal because every time I play mobile, I'm usually in my home and it frees up a TV. And I'm like, but that's not how remote play works. Sure, that is true. If my kiddos were watching a movie and I wanted the game, that's pretty nice, right? I could be upstairs on my couch. I could be in my bedroom playing my PlayStation 5. But I could also go to my friend's house, hop on his Wi-Fi, and play my PlayStation 5 games. I don't need to be at home. I don't get why people don't understand how remote play works. You can literally go to the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation Remote Play website, and it tells you how it works. It's so weird to me. It's like that is primarily one of the reasons that people thought the queue was stupid. They're like, they literally think that, I gotta be in my house to use it. Huh? No, you don't. Oh no, how dare you bring up Paperboy days. I'm having a waking nightmare just thinking about it. The remote play device needs mobile service, otherwise it's a moot point. Oh, okay. And in cultures where there's Wi-Fi everywhere, in cultures where their Wi-Fi and their internet infrastructure is far superior to ours, you think that matters? You think the Asian market gives a frig about that? You think they care? I still think it's stupid. That's totally fine. You can think it's stupid. I'm going to buy one, and it'll probably be in so high demand in Japan. They'll probably put most of their units there. You won't be able to get them. That's what's so funny about the queue is everyone's going to act like it's junk and it's stupid, and then people are going to be scrambling to get one. And it's going to be one of them. It's going to probably sell faster and be in more demand than the PSVR 2. They'll probably make more than the PSVR 2. In India, there's no Wi-Fi outside your house, homie. Oh, okay. What about Japan, where like half of the population of Japan has a Nintendo Switch? What about that? Just a teeny little market called Japan. Sony's home market. You know, just that little, it's a little teeny place. Little small space. Or culturally, they're never home. Wi-Fi's everywhere. Gaming on the go is more endemic to their daily life. Come on. Yeah, what's the cell phone infrastructure in India? Because you can use a cell phone as a portable hotspot. You can use a cell phone as a portable hotspot. I actually don't know what the cell phone infrastructure is like in India. Not all of Asia will have Wi-Fi. Right, but a massive portion of the Asian market will. Even we're not even considering like Korea in this equation. Doesn't South Korea have really good internet infrastructure as well? Derek could answer that. He's there right now. I wish we could just push away this notion that just because it's mobile or handheld, Japan will love it. Japan is a more mobile country. Yes, that isn't a doubt. But reminder, you need a PS5 for the queue. Okay. How many PS5s are sold in Japan? Isn't that the trick, Wheeze? Isn't that the trick? They have great relationships with Japanese developers. They've got timed exclusivities and exclusives that are Japanese-based games, and they say, hey, you can play these games on the go. Buy this bundle. Right? It may not need an existing attach rate and conversion of PlayStation 5s. They could sell bundles there. I mean, I don't know. I'm just speculating. What I'm saying is the idea that the queue is going to flop, it's like, I don't know. Gaming on the go is kind of becoming more of a thing now. And the PlayStation 5 audience has proven, did you look at the accessory percentages, Wheeze, in their webcast? When they looked at like their headphones, their PSVR 2, their accessories do really, really well. And according to Eugene here, 3.1 million units have sold in Japan. 3.1 million. That's not terrible. That's not the vast majority of the, 40 million? But that's pretty good. The Room VR. Yeah, I'll use that one. I don't want to reuse the same thumbnail. Yeah. Add your flavor text to the review video. Okay, cool. Yeah, I got a great review for you guys today, and it's super, super serendipitous because the Room VR got a free update on PSVR 2. Hey, DK Bager says, guys, we could hit 50 members. Come on now. We got to have a strong bounce back here. He gifts another member and bumps the line to 42. Let's see here. The Room VR, a dark matter gameplay on the Pico 4 is really enjoyable. It just got a free update and some news. So here is my Okay. All right. What time is it? Yeah, we go in. We thought we were gonna pull a lot stronger today. I think people are tired of the debate, honestly. Set this as a premiere. What's the one that you use that's so cool? Oh, ambient. Save. Today in 10 minutes. You guys have 10 minutes to push the member count a little bit higher if you want. I need to schedule the member stream though so that the premiere will go to members. Okay. Go in here. I can't say how much more Nintendo has pretty much shifted the consciousness of Japan in the past decade. I'm not sure what you mean. Create. I think the debate's more simple than some care to admit. Well, it was the most non-spicy we've ever been. Like, I expected a lot more of a fight, but I just think that people know there is no debate. Like, what one guy came in and was basically trying to drive that narrative, and I was like, but you're projecting. Like, that's not what they said. And as soon as you start doing that and you start giving them the direct quotes, it's like the discussion immediately dies. Like, what are you gonna say? Are you just gonna keep parroting false summaries and misquotes? What are you gonna say? I think that's part of the problem. I expected more of a fight. You laid it out too well. That's your fault. Yeah, I guess. Over a fifth of the population has a Switch. Yeah, I was being hyperbolic when I said half the population has a Switch. Yeah, it's like 1/4 or 1/5. One in every fourth or fifth person in Japan has a Nintendo Switch. It's insane. That adoption rate's insane. I become a member, but YouTube won't let me purchase through iPhone. You can gift and become members through iPhone. I think you just have to hit that $ button. And we'll go to a members recap. We'll save that. And then we should have this one loop back to the review. Okay. Cool. We are all set. In 7 minutes, we're going to be going to a premiere about the Room VR. It's a really, really cool game. The falling yen hasn't been helpful in Japan, and luxury consoles aren't as high on the radar as they were back in our childhood. Oh, okay. So you're saying, like, market realities are making it hard for, like, a premium level console to do well in that market, which is why, like, Switch Lite, Switch OLED, Switch itself has done well. Lower cost entry. People don't realize there is such a thing called target audience. If you don't know what remote play is, and if you don't use it, then you're not the target audience. I'm buying one. Yeah, I mean, I want one. I want one, number one, to test it out, but I want one just because it's like, it'd be so cool to take one PS5 with me, like, to Ohio, but then leave one back behind, plugged in standby, and, like, if I'm at my brother's house, the nephews could be playing on my PS5 that I brought with me, and I could be playing on my Q. Playing on a completely separate, device way back at home. Especially if, like, live service games start coming out and you want to put in a few, put in a little session, PS2 sold 23 million in Japan. The PS3 sold 10. The PS4 sold 9. The PS5 sold 3. PS is 100% bigger in the West and America than in Japan. That's the point I'm trying to make. Sure. I guess the question would be, though, like with what Eugene is saying, PlayStation fans buy accessories like crazy. The DualSense Edge shows that. So if they sold 3 million units in Japan and they get a decent adoption rate there for the Q Lite, could that turn the tide a little bit in their favor? Because people would say, wait a minute, how are you doing that, right? Like, it could start to make an impact of, maybe I do want to buy the higher value item. Now, again, you're saying that's going to be challenging because Nintendo's increasing in Japan, the yen's dropping in value, making it hard to purchase high dollar, value items. Okay, sure. But maybe that's part of the strategy with the Q Lite, is to say, we aren't doing well in Japan. We could leverage gaming on the go to help our adoption rate in Japan. I'm just theorizing. Also, it might do well in the West. We might be ignoring the fact that we are really busy in the United States. I think that's one of the reasons that podcasts have increased in their consumption. I feel like they have gone up in consumption because we're so busy. A podcast is one of the easiest pieces of media that you can consume when you're, on the go. So the Q Lite might do just fine in the West. Like, it might not even need to do, you know, gangbusters in the Asian market. It might not even need it. I'm not saying don't count Japan as a guarantee. I get what you're saying. Yeah, it could be a strategy of, if we offer a really cool mobile gaming device, we may start capturing better in Japan. You'll give them a reason. Think about it like that, Weez. Like, you'll give them a reason to buy a high-value item. Yo, DSB, I didn't thank you for 12 months. That was a while ago. Thank you, DSB, for an entire year of membership. Guys, you have 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, we're going to head to this premiere. Listen, if you guys support this channel, if you guys tune in every day, and if you like my content, do me a favor. When these reviews hit, try to support them. Like, as soon as I said we were going to go to a premiere of a review, like 80 people left. You have to see, like, we do the talk show every day, but if you like what we do here, you gotta support your content creators when they get the opportunity to, like, get access to games or devices for reviews. I've not been paid for these reviews. They are honest reviews, all right? So, you know, you guys get a talk show every day, and if you want that to continue happening, you know, we gotta drive that member count, and you gotta support those uploads, man. You gotta support them. You can't bail just because it's a 10-minute video. They're like, well, I don't care about that. Well, you know, you like hearing about cool stuff. You like seeing cool stuff early. Funny, I thought I heard DSP. No, DSB, as in basketball. You're saying you don't want to spend money on a PS5. Get this handheld. You also need to buy it and the PS5. Yeah. Yeah. I'm starting to agree with Zubair. PlayStation consumers are the Apple of gaming. Yeah, like they bought, like the DualSense Edge sales rate, like you're saying, it proves that people really, really like to buy accessories if they're in the PlayStation audience. It's true. It's true. So, all right, we're going to head over to this video. I'm going to end the stream on Kick first. You guys come over to YouTube if you want to watch it. We're going to go over this video. Do me a favor, all right? Do me a favor. When we get over there, smash the like button. These videos perform significantly better when they're getting likes. Go over there. I'll gift the members that I owe you. We only need 8 more for 50, all right? We're maintaining members right now until we get into August. When we get into August, we're going to have some bigger member incentives. So thank you for helping us maintain with those daily goals. I will see you guys over there in the premiere of The Room VR. It just got a free update on the PlayStation 5, so this review is relevant. All right, let's go help the video out. I'll see you guys over there, and then afterwards, I'll hang out with members.